Hyunwoo stared at his computer screen with tired eyes. The numbers and codes blurred together after 12 hours of work. He was just a simple archivist for the Galactic Council, nothing special. His job was to enter new species data into the big computer system that held information about every planet and every race in the galaxy. Today, he was working on the newest member species, humans from a planet they called Earth. The humans had joined the galactic community 6 months ago. They seemed nice enough, peaceful farmers and traders mostly. They called their world Terra in the official documents, which was simple and easy to remember. Hyunwoo rubbed his eyes and took another sip of his cold coffee. The work was boring but important. Every new species needed their information properly filed. Star coordinates, population numbers, technology levels, cultural notes, everything had to be perfect. He typed in the coordinates for Earth, Sector 7 Alpha, Spiral Arm 3, Yellow Star System. The computer made a soft beeping sound. That was normal. But then it made another beep, and another. Hyunwoo frowned. That was not normal. A red warning box appeared on his screen. Coordinate match detected in restricted files. Below that, another message. Access level insufficient. Contact supervisor immediately. What? Hyunwoo said out loud. He had never seen this message before. In 5 years of working as an archivist, the computer had never told him his access. Level was not enough for anything. He tried typing the coordinates again, thinking maybe he made a mistake. The same red warning appeared. His hands started to shake a little. Had he done something wrong? Was he in trouble? The office around him was quiet. Most of his co-workers had gone home hours ago. Only the night shift workers were still there, and they were in different sections of the building. Hyunwoo looked at his screen again and made a decision. He would call his supervisor. Dayun answered her communication device on the third ring. She sounded tired and a little annoyed. Hyunwoo, it's very late. This better be important. I'm sorry to bother you, Hyunwoo said quickly. But something strange happened with the human files. The computer is giving me warnings about restricted access. I think there might be a problem with the system. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then Dawon's voice became sharp and focused. What exactly did you see? Tell me everything. Hyunwoo explained about the coordinates and the warning messages. He could hear Da-eun moving around on the other end, probably getting dressed. Don't touch anything else, she said. Don't try to access those files again. I'm coming to the office right now. Wait for me. The line went dead. Hyunwoo sat back in his chair, feeling worried. Da-eun had worked for the Galactic Council for over 20 years. She never got excited about anything. If she was rushing to the office at this hour, something was very wrong. While he waited, Hyunwoo looked at the basic information about humans that was already in the system. They were a young species, only recently discovering space travel. Their planet was mostly water with large land masses. They had about 8 billion people. They seemed to like art, music, and growing food. Nothing scary or dangerous about them at all. So why was their location in restricted files? Da-eun arrived 30 minutes later. She was a tall woman with gray hair and serious eyes. She had been Hyunwoo's supervisor since he started working at the archives. She was strict but fair, and she knew more about the computer systems than anyone else in the building. Show me, she said without saying hello. Hyunwoo brought up the human files again and entered the coordinates. The red warning appeared just like before. Da-eun stared at the screen for a long moment, then sat down at the computer next to his. These coordinates, she said slowly. They're not just restricted. They're in the forbidden archives. Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. Everyone who worked for the council knew about the forbidden archives, but almost no one had ever seen them. They contained information that was sealed away for the safety of the galaxy. Old wars, dangerous technologies, extinct species that were too terrible to remember. But that doesn't make sense, Hyunwoo said. Humans are harmless. They grow food and make art. They don't even have proper space weapons yet. Da-un typed commands into her computer with quick, precise movements. Her access level was much higher than Hyunwoo's, but even she could not open the forbidden archives without special permission. "I'm going to try something," she said. "If this triggers a security alert, we might have some very angry people here soon." She entered a series of codes that Hyunwoo had never seen before. The computer screen flickered and changed color. New text appeared. "Partial access granted. Viewing restricted to index files only." A list of entries appeared on the screen. Most of them were in languages that Hyunwoo didn't recognize. Ancient symbols and characters that looked like they came from species that had been dead for thousands of years. But there, in the middle of the list, was something that made his blood run cold. Entry 47792, Voidborn Nursery World. Classification, Extinction Level Threat. Status, Monitoring Required. Last update, 50,000 years ago. Below that were the same coordinates he had been trying to enter for Earth. Da-eun and Hyunwoo stared at the screen in silence. Finally, Da-eun spoke in a whisper. "Voidborn," she said. "I've heard that name before, in old stories. Legends about monsters that came from the darkness between stars." Hyunwoo's hands were shaking again. "But this has to be a mistake. The coordinates are the same, but it's just a coincidence. Humans can't be whatever this is talking about." Before Da-eun could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the building. Red lights flashed in the hallways. A voice came over the speakers. "Security alert. All personnel report to stations. This is not a drill." Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor, outside their office. The door burst open and two figures entered. Hyunwoo recognized them immediately, even though he had only seen them in official photos before. Ambassador Krell was a saurian, 7 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes. He was one of the most important military leaders in the galaxy. Behind him came High Counselor Vex, whose body was made of pure energy contained in a humanoid shape. Vex was ancient and powerful, one of the beings who helped create the Galactic Council itself. "Explain," Krell said in his deep, rumbling voice. "Why have the forbidden archives been accessed?" Da-eun stood up quickly and bowed. "Honored Ambassador, we discovered a coordinate match while processing new species data. The location for the human homeworld matches an entry in the restricted files." Vex floated closer to the computer screen. Where his face should have been, there was only shifting light, but Hyunwoo could feel the ancient being's attention like a weight pressing down on him. "Show us," Vex said. His voice sounded like wind through metal. Da-eun brought up the files again. Both Krell and Vex studied the screen carefully. Hyunwoo watched their reactions and felt more afraid with each passing second. If these powerful beings were worried, then something truly terrible was happening. 50,000 years, Krell said quietly. The last entry was 50,000 years ago. Before the Great Sealing, Vex added. Before we locked away the knowledge that nearly destroyed the galaxy. Hyunwoo found the courage to speak. "Honored ones, I don't understand. What are Voidborn? And why does their file have the same coordinates as Earth?" Krell and Vex looked at each other. Even though their faces were very different, Hyunwoo could see they were both afraid. "Because," Vex said slowly, "if this information is correct, then humans are not what they appear to be. They are not peaceful farmers from a simple world. They are the children of the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever known." The room fell silent except for the continuing alarms. Hyunwoo looked at the screen again, at the innocent data about humans and their peaceful planet called Earth. But now, that same information felt like a warning about something terrible that was coming, and they had welcomed it into the galaxy with open arms. The emergency meeting room was deep underground, beneath the main council building. Hyun-woo had never been this far down before. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb sound and light. Even the air felt different here, thick and heavy with the weight of secrets. Around the large table sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Ambassador Krell's scales looked almost black in the dim lighting. High Counselor Vex floated in his chair, his energy body pulsing, slowly like a heartbeat. There were others, too, beings that Hyun-woo recognized from news broadcasts but never thought he would meet. Da-eun sat next to him, looking small and nervous. She kept checking the datapad in her hands, making sure all the information was correct. Hyun-woo felt out of place among all these important people, but Vex had insisted that both archivists attend the meeting since they had made the discovery. "Before we begin," Krell said, his voice echoing off the metal walls, "everyone in this room must understand that what we discuss here cannot leave these walls. The security of the entire galaxy may depend on our secrecy." Hyun-woo nodded along. With everyone else, though his stomach felt like it was full of ice. What could be so dangerous that even talking about it was a threat? "We need the old records translated," Vex said. "All of them. Every file related to the Voidborn must be examined." He turned his glowing form toward a woman sitting across the table. "Jin-A, you are our best hope." Jin-A was a xenolinguist, someone who studied dead alien languages. She was younger than Hyun-woo had expected, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. She looked tired, like she had been working all night. "I've already started," Ginny said, holding up her own datapad. "The ancient records are written in Old Cosmic, the language used by the first galactic civilizations. It's difficult to translate because many of the concepts don't exist in modern languages." She touched her datapad and a holographic display appeared above the table. Strange symbols floated in the air, shifting and changing as Jin-A worked. "From what I can understand so far," she continued, "the Voidborn were not like any species we know today. They didn't come from a planet. They came from the empty space between stars, from the darkness itself. The symbols changed, forming what looked like a crude drawing of creatures with too many arms and eyes that burned like stars. They were massive," Jin-A said. "Some records suggest they were as large as small moons, but their size wasn't the most frightening thing about them. They could survive in the vacuum of space without any protection. They could travel faster than light without ships. And they fed on the energy of living worlds." Hyun-woo watched the holographic images with growing horror. The creatures shown there looked nothing like humans, but somehow the idea that Earth might be connected to them made him feel sick. "What do you mean they fed on worlds?" asked someone from across the table. Ginny's face grew pale. "According to these records, the Voidborn would arrive at a planet and drain it. Not just kill the people living there, but absorb all the life energy, all the heat, everything that made the world alive. When they were finished, the planet would be nothing but a cold, dead rock floating in space." The room fell silent. Hyun-woo could hear his own heart beating in his ears. "How many worlds?" Krell asked quietly. "Thousands," Jin-A said. "Maybe tens of thousands. The records from that time are incomplete because so many civilizations were destroyed. But from what I can piece together, the Voidborn consumed entire star systems. For over 10,000 years, they swept across the galaxy like a plague." Vex pulsed brighter for a moment, which Hyun-woo had learned meant he was thinking hard about something. "The Great War," Vex said. "I remember stories about the Great War, but I thought they were myths. Tales told to frighten children." "Not myths," Jin-A said. She touched her datapad again and new symbols appeared. "The war lasted for 3,000 years. Every species in the galaxy united against the Voidborn. Races that had been enemies for centuries fought side by side. Technologies were shared that had been kept secret for generations. Everything was sacrificed to stop them. And they succeeded? Daon asked. Jin-ai looked uncomfortable. Sort of. The Voidborn couldn't be killed, not in any way that the ancient species understood, but they found another solution. They created a prison. The holographic display changed again, showing something that looked like a bubble floating in space. A pocket dimension, Ginny explained. A place outside of normal space and time. The combined power of 1,000 different species was used to push the Voidborn into this prison and seal them away forever. But that's not the end of the story, is it? Vex said. There was something in his voice that made everyone lean forward. Jin-ai shook her head. Before they were defeated, the Voidborn did something. They prepared for the possibility that they might lose. They sent out scouts, advanced teams, to find suitable worlds where their offspring could grow in safety. Hyunwoo felt his mouth go dry. Offspring? The records call them nursery worlds, Ginny said. Places where young Voidborn could mature slowly, hidden among other life forms, until they were ready to free their parents and reclaim the galaxy. She touched the data pad one more time. The coordinates for Earth appeared in the holographic display, glowing bright red against the ancient symbols. According to these files, Earth was designated as Nursery World 47792. The last monitoring report was filed 50,000 years ago, just before the Great Sealing, when all knowledge of the Voidborn was locked away. The silence in the room was complete. Hyunwoo stared at the coordinates floating in the air and tried to make sense of what he was hearing. Humans were supposed to be the descendants of cosmic monsters? It seemed impossible. What did the last report say? Krell asked. Jin-ai scrolled, through more text on her datapad. It's hard to translate, but the basic meaning is clear. The Voidborn offspring were placed on the world and left to develop naturally. They were engineered to look and act like the native life forms, to blend imperfectly. Over time, they would slowly awaken to their true nature. How long was this process supposed to take? Asked Vex. The report estimates 50 to 60,000 years for full maturation. Everyone in the room did the math at the same time. 50,000 years had already passed since the last report. If the estimates were correct, then humans should be very close to awakening. Minho, the Council's chief military strategist, had been quiet throughout the meeting. Now he spoke for the first time, and his voice was grim. I've been reviewing human military activities, he said. 6 months ago, when they first joined the galactic community, their technology was primitive. Simple chemical rockets, basic energy, weapons, no force fields or advanced materials. He activated his own datapad, and new information appeared in the holographic display. But in the last 6 months, their advancement has been remarkable. Too remarkable. They've developed new engine, designs that should have taken them decades to figure out. Their soldiers are performing better in joint training exercises than species with centuries more experience, and their reaction times in combat situations are becoming superhuman. What are you saying? Dayun asked. I'm saying that human capabilities are increasing at a rate that defies explanation. If these records are accurate, then we may be watching the beginning of their awakening. Krell stood up from his chair, his massive form casting shadows across the room. How long do we have? Jin-ai consulted her datapad again. Based on the progression rates described in these files, I estimate we have perhaps 100 years before the awakening is complete. Maybe less. 100 years, Vex said slowly, to decide what to do about a species that may become the most dangerous force the galaxy has ever known. Hyunwoo found his voice again. But humans are peaceful. They make art and grow food. They help other species and trade fairly. They don't seem like monsters. That's exactly what makes them so dangerous, Minho said. The void-born offspring were designed to be perfect infiltrators. They would appear harmless, even helpful, until the moment they revealed their true nature. By then it would be too late for anyone to stop them. The meeting continued for several more hours, but Hyun-woo barely heard the rest of it. His mind kept returning to the simple data files he had been working on. Information about a species that grew food and made beautiful music. How could those same beings be the children of cosmic destroyers? As the meeting finally ended and people began to leave, Vex floated over to where Hyun-woo and Da-eun were sitting. "You have done important work today," the ancient being said, "but remember, the fate of the galaxy may depend on how we handle this information. Trust no one outside this room." Walking back through the corridors of the council building, Hyun-woo felt like the weight of the universe was pressing down on his shoulders. In just one day, his simple job as an archivist had become something much more dangerous. And somewhere out there, on a peaceful world called Earth, 8 billion humans continued their daily lives, unaware that they might be the most feared species in galactic history. 3 weeks had passed since the emergency meeting, and Jun Seo felt like he was living in a nightmare that never ended. As a council intelligence operative, he had seen many dangerous things in his career. But watching humans through hidden cameras and secret reports was different. It was like watching a bomb that might explode at any moment. His assignment was simple: monitor human activities and look for signs of awakening. But the more he observed, the more worried he became. On his main screen, security footage played from a human deep-sea research station. The images showed humans working 3 miles underwater in pressure that would crush most alien species instantly. But the humans moved around easily, as if the crushing depths were nothing more than a swimming pool. "This shouldn't be possible," Jun Seo muttered to himself, reviewing the footage for the 10th time. The humans were wearing protective suits, but their vital signs remained steady even when their equipment failed. One human had survived for 47 minutes after his suit was damaged, breathing water that should have killed him in seconds. He switched to another file, reports from human space stations. Humans regularly performed maintenance work outside their ships in the vacuum of space. While they wore protective gear like any sensible species, accidents happened. When human equipment failed in space, they survived much longer than they should have. Sometimes hours longer. "Computer, show me the void-born biological characteristics from the ancient files," Jun Seo said. The screen changed to display the translated information that Jin-A had been working on. The list was frightening. Capable of surviving in vacuum for extended periods, resistant to radiation levels that would kill most life forms, able to function in extreme pressure environments, enhanced healing abilities. Jun Seo compared this list to the human incidents he had been documenting. The similarities were impossible to ignore. His communication device beeped. "Intelligence Operative Jun Seo, please report to Laboratory 7 immediately." Laboratory 7 was where So Young, the Council's best xenobiologist, had been studying human genetic samples. Jun Seo had been dreading this moment. If anyone could prove that humans were truly void-born descendants, it would be her. The laboratory was a clean white room filled with advanced equipment that Jun Seo didn't understand. So Young stood in front of a holographic display showing what looked like twisted ribbons of light. DNA sequences, he realized. "Jun Seo, thank you for coming," So Young said without looking away from her work. "I need you to see this before I report to the council." She gestured to the display, and the image zoomed in on a specific section of the DNA sequence. "This is human genetic material, standard carbon-based life form. Nothing unusual about the basic structure." The image shifted, highlighting certain areas in red. "But these sections here are different. They're dormant, inactive, but they're definitely there. And when I compare them to the genetic markers described in the void-born files..." A second set of DNA appeared next to the first. Even Jun Seo, who knew nothing about biology, could see that the red sections were nearly identical. "It's a perfect match," So Young said quietly. "Humans carry void-born genetic material in their DNA. It's been carefully hidden, designed to activate slowly over thousands of years, but it's definitely there." Junseo felt his legs go weak. "How much of their DNA?" "About 12%. That doesn't sound like much, but it's enough to completely change their abilities once it becomes active. Enhanced strength, improved healing, resistance to environmental hazards, and—" She paused, looking uncomfortable. "And what?" "The ability to manipulate dark energy. The same force that the Voidborn used to travel faster than light and drain the life from worlds." Before Junseo could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the laboratory. Red lights flashed on the walls, and an automated voice announced, "Emergency communication from human space. All senior staff report to command center immediately." They ran through the corridors together, joining other council members rushing toward the command center. Inside, the large screens were displaying reports from across human territory. Admiral Krell stood at the center of the room, his scaled face grim. "We're receiving reports of unusual incidents throughout human space. 3 separate events in the last 24 hours. The main screen showed a space station orbiting a human colony world. Incident 1, Deep Space Research Station Kepler. Human scientist He-Jin was working alone when she apparently entered some kind of trance state. Security cameras show her moving through the station without gravity boots, as if she was floating. She also seems to have interfaced directly with the station's computer systems without using any equipment. The image changed to show a human woman with long black hair floating in what should have been a zero-gravity environment, but somehow moving with purpose and direction. More disturbing was the footage of her placing her hands on a computer console and causing holographic displays to appear without touching any controls. She has no memory of the event, Krell continued. But during the 3 hours she was in this state, she solved theoretical problems that should have taken months of work by entire teams. The screen switched to a different location. Incident 2. Cargo ship Horizon's Edge, traveling from Earth to the Centauri colonies. Human engineer Taemin was repairing engine components when he apparently created a new type of power converter. The device operates on principles that our best scientists say are impossible. Junseo watched footage of a young human man working, with what looked like ordinary tools, but creating something that glowed with an eerie blue light. According to the technical readouts, the device was producing energy from what appeared to be empty space. "The device has been tested," Krell said. "It works perfectly, and we have no idea how. The energy signatures match theoretical models for dark energy manipulation." Incident 3, Krell continued, and the screen changed again. "Human patrol ship Guardian, responding to a distress call from a merchant vessel under pirate attack. The Guardian was outnumbered 5-1, with inferior weapons and shields." The footage showed a space battle. The human ship was indeed smaller and less armed than the pirate vessels surrounding it. But something was wrong with the way it moved. The ship seemed to know where the enemy would fire before they did, dodging weapons fire that should have been impossible to avoid. The human crew, led by Captain Dong-hyun, achieved a perfect victory with 0 casualties, Krell said. Post-battle interviews reveal that the humans felt where the enemy ships were, even when they were blocked from view. Captain Dong-hyun described it as knowing what they were going to do before they did it. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 3 separate incidents, all showing humans displaying abilities that went far beyond normal biology. So Young stepped forward. "Admiral, based on my genetic analysis, I believe these incidents represent the beginning of the awakening process described in the ancient files. The dormant void-born DNA in humans is starting to activate." "How long before the process is complete?" asked Vex, who had been quiet throughout the briefing. "Based on the rate of change I'm seeing, much faster than we originally estimated. Perhaps 50 years, maybe less. And as more humans awaken, the process will accelerate. They'll learn from each other, teach each other how to use their new abilities. Min Ho, the military strategist, activated his own display. I've been analyzing human military development since these incidents began. Their advancement rate has increased dramatically. New ship designs, improved weapons, tactical innovations that suggest they're developing combat instincts that no peaceful species should possess. On his screen, charts and graphs showed human military capability growing at an exponential rate. What had been a primitive space navy 6 months ago was rapidly becoming something much more formidable. There's something else, Min Ho continued. Reports from our border regions indicate that several aggressive species who have been raiding human settlements have suddenly stopped their attacks. When questioned, they claim that approaching human space gives them bad feelings and nightmares. Jun Seo thought about the deep space footage he had been reviewing. Humans working in environments that should kill them, surviving accidents that would be fatal to any other species, developing technology that violated known physics. And now, they were apparently giving nightmares to experienced space pirates just by existing. "What are your recommendations?" Krell asked the assembled group. The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Everyone in the room understood what was being asked. Should they act against humanity before the awakening was complete? Should they try to evacuate nearby star systems? Should they attempt to warn other species about what was coming? "We need more information," Vex said finally. "But we also need to begin preparations. If humans truly are awakening to their void-born heritage, then the galaxy faces a threat unlike anything we've seen in 50,000 years. What kind of preparations?" So Young asked. "Military preparations," Min Ho said grimly. "Defense preparations. Evacuation plans for worlds near human space. And we need to decide whether to reveal this information to the other major powers in the galaxy. If we tell them," Jun Seo said, "it could cause panic. Entire sectors might flee in terror." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything that had been seen in centuries. Representatives from every major power in the galaxy filled the great chamber. The air was thick with tension and fear. For the first time since the council was formed, species that had been enemies for generations sat side by side, united by a common terror. Ambassador Krell stood at the center podium, his scales darker than usual. Behind him, holographic displays showed images and data that made even the most hardened military commanders uncomfortable. "The situation has escalated beyond our worst predictions," Krell announced to the assembled delegates. "In the past month, human awakening incidents have increased by 300%. What started as isolated events is now happening across all of human space." The main display showed a map of the galaxy. Human territory was marked in blue, but now that blue was pulsing with red warning lights. Each light represented a reported incident of humans displaying impossible abilities. "The incidents are no longer random," Krell continued. "Humans are beginning to seek each other out. Those who have experienced awakening are teaching others. They're forming groups, sharing knowledge, accelerating the process." In the audience, delegates from dozens of species whispered among themselves. The hegemony's war chief, a massive being covered in metal armor, stood up. "How long do we have?" the war chief demanded. "How long before they complete their transformation?" "Based on current acceleration rates," Min Ho said as he took the podium, "full awakening could occur within 10 to 15 years. But that's if the process continues at its current pace. If it accelerates further..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the chamber understood. A delegate from the Trade Federation, her forearms gesturing frantically, called out, "What about the humans who haven't awakened yet? Are they dangerous?" "We don't know," Krell admitted. "Reports suggest that even unawakened humans are changing. They're becoming stronger, faster, more intuitive. Some appear to be developing limited telepathic abilities." The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Species that had considered humans to be harmless trading partners were realizing that they might have invited their own destruction into their homes. On the outer edge of human space, Admiral Yuri of the Human Defense Force was dealing with problems she didn't understand. Her ship, the Endeavor, was patrolling the border between human and Klingith territory when the first reports came in. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a distress signal from the merchant ship Fortune's Dream. They report being attacked by Klingith raiders." Yuri frowned. The Klingith were known pirates, but they usually avoided human ships. Humans had proven surprisingly difficult to defeat in recent months, and word was spreading among the criminal groups. "Set course for their location," Yuri ordered. "Maximum speed." As they approached the battle site, something strange happened. Yuri found herself knowing things she shouldn't know. She could sense the exact location of the enemy ships even before they appeared on her sensors. She knew which way they would turn, which weapons they would fire, what their captain was thinking. "All ships, adjust formation to Pattern 7, she ordered, though Pattern 7 wasn't something they had ever practiced. Her crew looked confused, but they followed orders. Somehow, they all seemed to understand exactly what she wanted them to do. The formation they created was perfect for the enemy's attack plan, though that plan hadn't been revealed yet. The battle was over in minutes. The Klingith raiders fled, in terror, their ships damaged and their crews reporting nightmares about the dark ones who see through metal and know your thoughts. After the battle, Yuri sat in her quarters trying to understand what had happened. She had commanded space battles before, but never like this. It was as if she had been able to see through the enemy's eyes, feel their intentions before they acted on them. Her door chimed and Lieutenant Wu Jin entered. He was her tactical officer, a young man with an excellent record, but now he looked troubled. "Admiral," he said quietly, "I need to report something unusual. During the battle, I felt things. I knew where the enemy ships were going to be before they moved, and I think some of the crew felt it too." Yuri nodded slowly. "I felt it as well. Something is happening to us, Wu Jin. Something that command hasn't told us about." On Earth, Dr. Hei Wan was working late in her laboratory again. As the planet's chief scientist, she had been studying the reports of unusual incidents among humans in space. What she was discovering kept her awake at night. Her computer screens showed brain scans from humans who had experienced awakening episodes. The patterns were unlike anything in medical literature. Areas of the brain that had been dormant for the entire history of the human species were suddenly becoming active. "Computer, run comparative analysis with theoretical void-born neural patterns," she said. "Analysis complete," the computer responded. "Probability of genetic relationship, 97.4%. Heywan closed her eyes. She had been afraid of this result, but part of her had been expecting it. For weeks now, she had been having dreams. Strange dreams about floating in the darkness between stars, about feeling the life energy of entire worlds, about powers that could reshape reality itself. At first, she had dismissed the dreams as stress-induced fantasies. But as more reports came in from across human space, she began to realize that she wasn't the only one having them. Thousands of humans were reporting similar experiences. Her communication device beeped. "Dr. Hei Wan, we have an urgent situation at Research Station Omega." Research Station Omega was Earth's most advanced space laboratory, orbiting on the edge of the solar system. It was where humanity's best scientists worked on projects that were considered too dangerous to conduct on Earth itself. "What kind of situation?" Heywan asked. "It's Dr. Yunji. She's outside the station, without a suit, and she's been out there for over an hour." Heywan felt her blood turn to ice. "Send me the video feed immediately." The images that appeared on her screen defied everything she knew about biology and physics. Dr. Yunji, a brilliant young physicist, was floating in the vacuum of space next to the research station. She wore no protective equipment, yet she was clearly alive and conscious. More disturbing was what she was doing. Yoon-ji had her hands pressed against the station's hull, and energy was flowing from her fingers into the station's power systems. The station's lights were brighter than they had ever been, and the power readings were off the charts. "How is this possible?" Hae-won whispered. As she watched, Yoon-ji turned toward the camera as if she could see through the station's hull. When she spoke, her voice somehow carried through the vacuum of space. "The awakening cannot be stopped," Yoon-ji said, though her lips weren't moving in sync with the words. "We are remembering what we truly are. The children of the void are coming. Home." The transmission cut out, and when it resumed 30 minutes later, Yoon-ji was unconscious in the station's medical bay. She had no memory of what had happened, but the station's power systems were permanently enhanced in ways that human science couldn't explain. Back at the Galactic Council, the reports were becoming increasingly alarming. Entire human colonies were reporting mass awakening events. Humans were developing abilities that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. "We have to make a decision," the Trade Federation delegate said during another emergency session. "Do we act now, while they're still vulnerable? Or do we wait and hope they remain peaceful?" "What kind of action are you suggesting?" asked Vex. The delegate's forearms trembled. "Military action. A preemptive strike before they become too powerful to stop." The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what was being proposed: the complete destruction of humanity before they could awaken to their full potential. "That would be genocide," said a delegate from the Medical Alliance. "We're talking about 8 billion innocent beings." "Innocent now," the war chief growled. "But what about when they remember what their ancestors were? What about when they decide to finish what the Voidborn started?" Ambassador Krell looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Fear was visible on every face, in every gesture. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were terrified of a species that still considered space travel to be a new adventure. "There is another option," Vex said suddenly. His energy form pulsed brighter as all eyes turned to him. "We could tell them the truth." "Tell them what truth?" someone called out. "Tell them what they are. Tell them about their heritage. If they understand their nature, perhaps they can control it. Perhaps they can choose to be different from their ancestors." The suggestion sent ripples of shock through the chamber. The idea of voluntarily revealing the galaxy's greatest secret to the very species they feared seemed like madness. "And if they choose to embrace their heritage instead?" the war chief asked. "If knowing the truth makes them decide to become the monsters their ancestors were, then we will face the same threat either way," Vex replied. "But at least this way, we give them a chance to prove they can be better." As the debate raged on, reports continued to arrive from human space. The awakening was accelerating. More humans were developing abilities every day. The massive council ship Harmony hung in space at the edge of Earth's solar system, its hull gleaming with the combined technologies of 100 species. Inside its main conference chamber, Ambassador Sung-ho stood before the largest gathering of human representatives in history. Every human colony, every ship captain, every government leader who could make the journey was there. They had come expecting a routine diplomatic meeting about trade agreements and cultural exchange. Instead, they were about to learn the most terrifying truth in galactic history. Captain Kyung-soo of Earth's Defense Force sat in the front row, his weathered face showing the confidence of a man who had survived dozens of space battles. Next to him, Dr. Hae-won looked nervous but curious. She had been studying the strange incidents among humans for months, and she suspected this meeting would provide answers. Behind them sat hundreds of other humans: scientists, soldiers, farmers, artists, engineers. They represented the diversity of humanity, and they were about to discover that their species was far more significant than they had ever imagined. Ambassador Sung Ho was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes. He had been chosen for this task because of his reputation for honesty and his ability to remain calm under pressure. But as he looked out at the assembled humans, he felt anything but calm. "My fellow humans," he began, his voice carried throughout the chamber by advanced translation systems. "What I am about to tell you will be difficult to believe, but every word is true, and every piece of evidence has been verified by the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy." The chamber fell silent. Even the background hum of the ship's systems seemed to fade away. 50,000 years ago, Sung Ho continued, the galaxy was terrorized by a species known as the Voidborn. They were not like any life form we understand today. They came from the darkness between stars, and they consumed the life energy of entire worlds. Murmurs began to spread through the audience. This sounded like something from a science fiction story, not a diplomatic briefing. The Voidborn were eventually defeated and imprisoned by the combined might of every species in the galaxy. But before their defeat, they prepared for the possibility of failure. They sent scouts to find suitable worlds where their offspring could grow in secret, hidden among other life forms, until they were ready to free their parents and reclaim the galaxy. Dr. Hei-Wan leaned forward in her seat. She was beginning to understand where this was leading, and the implications made her feel sick. Earth, Sung Ho said quietly, was designated as one of these nursery worlds, and we, the human race, are the descendants of the Voidborn. The chamber exploded in shocked voices. Some humans laughed, thinking this was some kind of joke. Others demanded proof. A few sat in stunned silence, remembering strange dreams and unexplained abilities they had been experiencing. Captain Kyung-soo stood up, and his presence was enough to quiet the room. When he spoke, his voice carried a strange resonance that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull itself. "How long have you known?" he asked. "We discovered the connection 3 months ago," Sung Ho replied. "Since then, we have been monitoring human activities and documenting incidents of awakening abilities." Kyung-soo smiled, and there was something in that smile that made several alien observers step back involuntarily. "You've been watching us, studying us, deciding whether we're a threat." "Yes," Sung Ho admitted. "The galaxy is terrified of what humanity might become." "And what do you think we might become?" Dr. Hei-Wan asked, rising to stand beside Kyung-soo. "Monsters," said a voice from the back of the chamber. Ambassador Krell stepped forward, his massive reptilian form imposing even in the company of so many humans. "Your ancestors consumed thousands of worlds. They brought darkness and death to civilizations that had existed for millions of years." Kyung-soo turned to face Krell, and when their eyes met, the alien ambassador felt something he had never experienced before. The presence of a predator so dangerous that his ancient survival instincts screamed at him to run. "And you think," Kyung-soo said softly, "that we will do the same, won't you?" Krell asked, though his voice was less certain than before. Kyung-soo laughed again, and this time the sound seemed to echo from places that had no walls. Several humans in the audience began to glow with faint energy, their awakening abilities responding to his presence. "You want to know what we'll become?" Kyung-soo said. "Let me show you." He closed his eyes and extended his consciousness outward. Every human in the chamber felt it, a connection that went deeper than thought, deeper than biology. They were linked, all of them, by something that had been sleeping in their DNA for 50,000 years. Through that connection, memories flowed. Not human memories, but older ones. Memories of floating through the void between stars, of feeling, the pulse of galaxies, of power beyond imagination. But something else flowed through the connection as well. The memories of what humans had chosen to become. The art they had created, the love they had shared, the way they had reached out to other species with curiosity instead of hunger. Dr. Wan gasped as understanding flooded through her. "We're not our ancestors," she said. "No," Kyung-soo agreed, opening his eyes. "We're something new, something that has never existed before." He gestured to the other humans in the chamber, many of whom were now glowing with visible energy. "We have the power of the Voidborn, but we also have something they never had. We have choice." Jae-hyun, a young man who had been experiencing awakening episodes for weeks, stood up from his seat. Energy crackled around his hands, but instead of using it destructively, he shaped it into something beautiful, a sculpture of light that showed humans and aliens working together among the stars. "We could be destroyers," Jae-hyun said. "The power is there. We can feel it, but we choose to be something else." Around the chamber, other humans began demonstrating their awakening abilities. But instead of showing off their capacity for destruction, they created art, solved complex problems, and reached out to connect with the minds of the alien observers. Ambassador Krell watched in amazement as a human woman named Soo-jin used her newfound powers to heal injuries on several alien delegates who had been wounded in recent accidents. The energy that could have drained worlds was instead being used to preserve life. "This is impossible," Krell said. "The power of the Voidborn cannot be used for creation. It is a force of consumption and destruction." "Only if that's how you choose to use it," Dr. Haewon replied. She had awakened fully during the demonstration, and now she could sense the flow of dark energy throughout the chamber. "The power itself is neutral. What matters is the intention behind it." High Counselor Vex, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. "You're saying that humanity can control the Voidborn inheritance? That you can use their power without becoming them?" "We're saying," Kyung-soo replied, "that we already are. Every human who has awakened has made the same choice. We could take what we want by force, but we choose to ask. We could destroy our enemies, but we choose to make friends. We could consume worlds, but we choose to protect them." The chamber fell silent again as the implications of this revelation sank in. The galaxy's greatest fear, the return of the Voidborn, had already come to pass. But instead of bringing destruction, it had brought something unprecedented, a species with the power of gods that chose to use that power for good. "What do you want from us?" Sung-ho asked. "Nothing," Kyung-soo said. "We don't want to rule over other species or demand tribute or territory. We want to do what we've always done: explore, learn, create, and help others do the same." "And if threats arise?" Vex asked. "If other species try to take advantage of your peaceful nature?" Jae-hyun stepped forward, and suddenly he was no longer in the chamber. He was standing in the void between stars, his form visible as pure energy against the cosmic darkness. When he spoke, his voice carried across impossible distances. "Then we will stand guard," he said. "The same power that once brought terror to the galaxy will now protect it. We are the children of the void, but we choose to be guardians, not destroyers." He returned to the chamber in an instant, but his demonstration had been felt throughout the ship and beyond. Every sensor in the fleet had detected his presence in space, and the readings defied every law of physics they knew. "The awakening cannot be stopped," Dr. Haewon said. "More humans gain these abilities every day, but we promise you this: we will use our power to protect the innocent, to defend the weak, and to stand against any darkness that threatens the galaxy." "Even if that darkness comes from your own kind?" Krell asked. "Especially then," Kyung-soo replied. "We know what we could become if we chose the wrong path. That knowledge makes us more determined to choose the right one." As the meeting came to an end, representatives from across the galaxy sat in stunned silence. The species they had feared would destroy them had instead chosen to protect them. The most dangerous power in galactic history was now in the hands of beings who valued life above conquest. In the months that followed, reports came in from across human space. Awakened humans took positions as guardians and protectors, using their abilities to defend ships from pirates, to rescue colonies, from natural disasters, and to stand watch against threats from the dark between stars.